Hello friends, today we're playing the most polarizing guitar pickups I've ever experienced. Not just from playing, but from discussing them or asking people their opinions of these pickups. Either people love them or they hate them. I'm talking about a set of Barden SDLX Strat pickups. In the mid-90s, I was told by a number of people that guitar pickups that I absolutely had to play, that would be the be-all, end-all for any kind of pickup or gear search that I would encounter, were Joe Barden's. I was living in Virginia, and he was based in Vienna, Virginia, and I was told this by dozens of local players in the area. They were just raving about the Bardens and said, this is the end, this is be-all, end-all, they're noise-free, they're clear, they're bright, they sound fantastic. I know that Joe Barden sold his company, and that the company continues on as Joe Barden Electronics, and that they make products that are faithful in material and design to his original works. I wanted to get a vintage set to know for sure, so I purchased a vintage set of Joe Barden SDLX pickups. I installed the SDLX pickups in my 1983 Partscaster, and then we tested the Bardens against two other Strats, a 76 loaded with Porter Vintage, and a 74 loaded with Seymour Duncan Alnico 5.2s for a little bit more of a traditional Strat sound, so you could hear how these sound compared to the Bardens. Alright, now that you've heard the clips, I want to tell you a few of my likes and things that I didn't necessarily care for or weren't really for me with the Bardens. First thing that I really liked is the craftsmanship. These things are incredibly well made. I mean, you can see it. It's different than a lot of rail style pickups that I've seen in the past. You can see the materials are really nice, the flat work, the stainless steel blades are thicker and really nicely done. And you can see that there was real craft and care in these things. They're noiseless, they're perfectly noiseless. I mean, they're balanced coils and they cancel magnificently. There's no weird extra single coil hum. They're fantastic at that. I really liked the responsiveness with regards to pick attack. I think that a lot of noiseless pickups have a little bit of a curious aperture or window to pick attack that's not unlike a lot of humbuckers, where it's almost like the initial strike of the pick on the strings kind of almost emerges as if it's from behind a curtain or breaks through the clouds, whereas a traditional single coil has a little bit more of an immediate thwack, almost like a thunderclap that's really present. And the Bardens have more of that single coil kind of attack that's really immediate, that's different than a lot of rail or noise-free pickups, in my experience. Last thing I say I really liked is the clarity. I mean, there's nothing that is remotely as clear as these pickups. They're, I'd say they're borderline unforgiving. As a result, there became things that I was present or became aware of in my playing that I sometimes did not pay attention to. And I found myself really kind of hyper aware of like where I was strumming, you know, strum position relative to the pickups, or how you use the volume or tone controls in the guitar. I've thought that presence was a pretty interesting thing, and I think that can be a rewarding experience using these pickups. Okay, a few things that I didn't necessarily care for. I thought the Bardens were the brightest pickups that I think I've ever experienced, other than stuff that's malfunctioning or is completely lacking low end or something because of phase cancellation. These were functioning as they should, and there's a lot of brightness. In addition to that kind of 3.5K peak that a lot of single coils have, I also felt I was hearing a lot of high upper mid range, like 2.5 and up. And it's just a really, really bright pickup that we had to compensate for. If we wanted it to be comfortable, we would sometimes find ourselves dialing down treble in different places, or really working the tone knob on the guitars. The second thing is, I think the presence thing is a little bit of a double-edged sword. I found that when I was using the Bardens, my main guitar, I was constantly working the volume and tone controls. And I don't think I was... It's almost like a left brain, right brain kind of thing, where you're never really just relaxing and playing guitar the way you might be naturally comfortable doing. I think I was constantly adjusting and tweaking and writing. And that, I think, isn't necessarily something that I particularly enjoy or want to live full-time doing when I'm playing guitar, to constantly be adjusting and tweaking. I guess what it comes down to between these factors, that presence, that brightness, that clarity, is an issue of compatibility. I found that you could get the Bardens to sound fantastic. You could dial up things on your guitar, on your amp and things where things sounded great, but then when I would grab other instruments, they wouldn't sound so great through those settings. I ran into a similar issue like this when I used to use EMGs, where you dial up something that sounded great for that guitar, but not necessarily well for other guitars. And I'm talking a whole spectrum of stuff. I'm talking things with P90s, single coils, humbuckers. The Bardens were just so much brighter and more present that the settings that you would dial up that worked well for them necessarily didn't work well for other instruments. So, in summation, I thought it was a really cool experience. I think they're wonderfully made, and I think if you tailor your sound to them the same way someone might if they use EMGs, or the way our friend Matt talked about, if you use a big muff, you might want to tailor your sound around the big muff as opposed to expect to just plug and play a big muff in and have it sound great. I think if you tailor your sound around using the Bardens, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience because of how present it is and how noise-free they are. For me, that wasn't necessarily compatible with the stuff that I generally like. But it's still incredibly well made, incredibly well crafted, and if that's the sound that does it for you, it's an absolutely great choice. Hey friends, I know you guys think you might need another YouTube gear channel to subscribe to about as much as you might need a hole in your head. Well, I need that hole in your head. So, if you like what you saw here today, we'll be doing more of it. Please subscribe, check it out. Also, in our description, we're going to be linking to some things that we're going to be selling, just because I've got a lot of clutter around here. It's like I'm the gear hoarding dragon of Tone Mountain. Some of this stuff has to go fly away. So, we'll sell the Bardens that you saw featured in this video. We're going to sell a couple of these version 8 big muffs that we restored that used to belong to a pretty noteworthy artist. And in honor of it being a Strat-filled, Strat-infused video, I think we'll sell off this vintage DiMarzio bridge assembly made of brass from the 1970s. Hey, it's heavy enough that you could smash a window with this if you don't like the sound. So I hope you dig it. Subscribe and check it out, and take care of yourselves. See ya.